Hi everyone, today we're going to cover this shift that you've probably heard a lot about in the news, where companies are moving away from experience-based hiring and moving to what we're calling skills-based hiring or skills-first hiring. And the idea here is that rather than looking at traditional years of experience, you can actually try to infer how good someone is at a particular skill and hire based on that, rather than using more traditional metrics like where someone worked or what school they went to. And this is a huge improvement, a big win for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and opportunity for those that may have been kind of missed out in the workforce. And the data behind this is quite promising. Just this year, we've seen less than 30% of new roles in the US actually require a certain number of years of experience. And this is down from 40% just 2 years ago. So, really seeing this trend start to take off. And what I'd like to do in this video is give recruiting teams, especially, 3 actionable steps that they can start to take if they're thinking about transitioning to more of a skills-first hiring process. So let's jump straight in. So I covered the kind of headline metric, and that is this kind of long-term trend. This is based on a study that Indeed did, where they're starting to see kind of reduction in the job descriptions that they have on their website of fewer years of work experience. And it's interesting to look at the reasons behind this. AI has obviously been a kind of a hot topic for the last couple of years, but when you think about the impact that's going to have, we're actually going to see a lot of repetitive tasks where that experience is really important gradually be moved away and automated with AI. And so the kind of new roles that are emerging, those kind of more like technical or scientific focused roles, or potentially more like people to people roles like those in healthcare, the actual depth of kind of total years of experience is less important than your ability to actually do the job. And so it's quite interesting to see what's going to happen here, and how these kind of big numbers, such as the 12 million job transitions that are going to happen in Europe as people move from these industries and these roles that are gradually being automated to these in-demand roles that are now being created as this opportunity has created itself. So there's 3 steps that we're going to cover. The first one is we're going to think about how do you actually rethink the job description. So you remove the years of experience and you start to think about what do you replace that with. The second one is how to actually implement skills-based assessments. And this is so that you can gather that data. And instead of just looking at the resume, you actually have clear data points that are going to help you to make hiring decisions. And then the third step is how do you train your teams and actually adjust the interviews and all the process so that you can actually really embrace this new world of skills-based hiring. So first up, let's look at how we redesign job descriptions. And the key here is we're not going to remove the job description or completely overhaul it. But what we are going to do is look at what doesn't work now, and what's going to lead to poor hiring decisions, and think about how can we actually transition away from that. So instead of focusing on years of experience and degrees, we're going to try and look at the essential skills. So those kind of years of experience and the kind of qualifications that you would want to see on a resume, really they're just proxies for the ability for that individual to do their job. So you take this kind of 5 years of marketing experience example we've got here, you say, well, what are we actually trying to hire for? And that is kind of using that description. And it's really this kind of proficiency in data analytics tools. For a modern marketing manager, you're going to expect them to be able to use kind of modern marketing tools to be able to pull data and decide what campaigns are working and how to adjust the strategy. So rather than kind of giving an ambiguous kind of years of experience, let's say this is what we want. We want proficiency in data analytics tools. We also want to be able to have experience with SEO strategy execution. Generally, you would expect someone that has that 5 years of marketing experience to be experienced in SEO strategy, but actually by clearly defining it up front, not only are you going to move away from this kind of more biased approach that no longer working, but you're actually going to very clearly call out what you're looking for, which is going to help in the rest of the process when you're trying to assess whether someone can actually do the role. And so what this actually does, if you remove all of this kind of language from the job description, you actually broaden your talent pool, you make this opportunity available to more people. And so you're overall going to increase the overall quality of potential candidates that don't meet those traditional experiences, and potentially even moving over from a different industry or a different role, which is what we're going to see become more commonplace in the next few years. So one of the big challenges of actually removing those kind of pre-filters from your job descriptions is now you actually might have a lot more candidates applying to a role because they believe that they could actually do a lot of the requirements that you've laid out. But how do you understand how good someone actually is at those things? And traditionally, if you could interview someone, you might give them a case and actually see how they perform. But that's not really popular. That's not really possible if you've got thousands of candidates applying to a role. This is where skills-based assessments come in. So instead of kind of resumes and interviews, actually give the candidate an opportunity to demonstrate the skill set they have, and then use the scores from that to interview the top few percent of candidates, and move your candidate funnel along that way. You're going to really speed things up, but also going to end up with a much a hire that's going to much more closely fit your requirements. A good example here, and this has been used for years. I had a lot of success with this when I was leading a campus recruiting team. We would actually have all of our entry-level software engineers take a coding assessment, and with that coding assessment, we would then be able to filter who was outperforming, who were in the kind of top quartile performers, and then we could then interview them and cover all the things that are harder to assess on a skills-based assessment. But you're seeing more and more of these kind of assessments become available for other roles like sales and customer service, potentially even on the kind of more white-collar professional services side of things as well. Having someone take a skills assessment is going to give you that quantifiable metric up front. A couple of recommendations that I've had. I've worked with Codelity in the past, but more recently, spent a lot of time working with CodeSignal and really like the type of work they're doing, which is not just within software engineering, but any kind of role that requires coding, which is becoming more and more prevalent now. So I would definitely recommend checking out one of those two tools if you don't already have that implemented, because that's really going to help you pre-filter your top of funnel. So you've got this kind of assessment process. You're going to get these data-driven hiring metrics. Next, you want to make sure that the hiring teams are not overriding this kind of skills-first approach that you're taking. And so if you're using those kind of traditional hiring approaches where you're interviewing for culture fit is kind of one of the buzzwords, or you're talking about the schools, or you're talking about the companies that they've worked for, you're not really focusing on the skills. You're kind of implying that, if you worked for Apple, you have skills related to these kind of certain product design areas, or maybe you kind of have a bias based on the types of experience that you're looking for and the companies that people generally have those experiences at. So let's move away from that. Instead of saying, tell me about your last job, actually give them a problem. Say, okay, here's a problem that you're likely to face in this role. Tell me how you're going to solve it, and then kind of probe on that, get some quantifiable data, and kind of really understand the way that someone works and the skills that they're applying, so that you can make more informed hiring decisions, as opposed to just hiring someone that says they've already done their job before, but potentially are not going to demonstrate how they're going to do it with the skills that you really need in that role. So not only is this going to, again, lead to better quality of hires, it's also going to reduce the bias in the hiring process as well, which should lead to more diverse teams. And we know from all the research that diverse teams actually create better business outcomes in the long run. So this is a huge win if you can move your teams away from more traditional hiring practices, more to this kind of skills-based assessments and more kind of competency-focused interviews. You're going to come up with a kind of much stronger overall cohort of final round candidates. So that was a very kind of quick run through, but 3 very quick takeaways. Redesign your job descriptions first. Make sure that you're not using biased language and you're kind of moving away from that years of work experience. Really call out exactly what you're looking for, and that's going to help you to match with candidates that really meet those requirements. Then think about how you're going to implement different ways to assess those candidates' capabilities, rather than relying solely on a resume that could have been kind of produced by ChatGPT or could have been generated with the help of a career coach. Actually think about how do you assess someone's skills in a way that can't be kind of gamed. And then finally, think about how your hiring team is going to use this new approach in order to make better hiring decisions by focusing on skills and competencies rather than where someone worked or where someone went to school. That was it. I would love to hear your comments in the details below. If you do have any more questions or suggestions, there's a number of different ways you can reach out to me. But if you like this type of content, you want to see more of it, please subscribe. Please check out some of the other videos, which will be displayed on the screen. And I hope to hear from you soon.